Hi, Planner Pals. Before we get into the episode, I just wanted to let you know about an exciting happening, and that is that we have a mini channel membership over here on the Planner Pals podcast. This one includes benefits like getting early access to episodes, so being able to watch them at the time of upload rather than the regular time of release, and also having your say in the topics that we cover in future. If you wanted to learn more and check it out, that one is linked in the description box below, or you can hit the join button next to the Planner Pals podcast username, and that will take you to a page where you can find out more information. Without further ado, though, let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Planner Pals podcast, a podcast hosted by two true Planner Pals. I'm Jess, or Jessie Corinne.
And my name is Mark, and I go by Mark Your Pages. And today, Jess, one of my favorite episodes of the year, Community Q&A. I loved how you organized today's question. So Jess is so smart and so cute about how she did it. We organized today into Planner, Pals, and podcasts. So we'll be going over different things about planners, all about friends and pals, and then obviously some questions and behind the scenes on the podcast today. And just a good conversation. It's been another fantastic year, another just successful podcast year altogether. Like I've having so much fun. I hope that you still are too, Jess.
Yeah, and I definitely hope our Planner Pals are having fun as well. I mean, you keep coming back, so I assume you don't absolutely hate us, unless you're hate watching us, which we appreciate you being here all the same, and hopefully there's going to be something in the future that resonates more with you. But in terms of our questions from the community, first of all, thank you so much for leaving them. We love getting your questions. We love getting your feedback and all of that. And you guys certainly bought some questions for us. We have quite a list. We will not get to all of them, but we hope to answer as many as we can. So, Mark, first question, what do you want to ask?
All right. So the first question in the planner section is, what planner item or process are you leaving behind in 2025?
Oh, I don't want to count my chickens before they've hatched, but I kind of feel like one of them is going to be, not to an extent of fully eliminating it, but I'm going to say decorative planning. I don't think that I'm necessarily going to eliminate decoration altogether, but I do think that the decorative style that I've been using, I'm going to be changing up more in favor of something that's a little more minimalist, a little less maybe sticker and washi tape heavy. Again, don't want to count the chickens before they've hatched or whatnot, but I feel like that's kind of where I envision my planning heading. What do you reckon for you?
I'm actually really interested in that for you, Jess. I think we've talked past episodes about you talking as you've been kind of going more and more into this functional space and less from the decorative, except when you're having fun with it. So I'm excited for you. I think for me, I don't really know that I'm leaving a whole lot behind. I really edited down this year as a whole. Actually, no, I will put something out there. Been thinking about editing down so many of my regular pens that are behind me, my stationery pens. And this is why I've just found that I've really kind of felt very comfortable with a select group of stationery this year. A lot of it has to do with fine liners and just black ink. All of my color and kind of extra fun is coming from my fountain pen ink inside of my bullet journal. But I've just been so very much focused on just my weekly overviews and my dailies, and definitely kind of just that's just where I've been. Every now and again, I might grab a mild liner or a brush pen, but I have so much stuff behind me that I'm just not grabbing as often now. And so I have to almost force myself and challenge myself to do it. And I think instead of forcing myself into it, I might just edit that down a little bit more, really focus a lot more on what I'm using, having that available and being fast and quick about doing it. And maybe focus more on stamps and stickers and stuff like that instead of drawing it myself. I think that's probably a lot of where that's going to come. So kind of editing down the pens for future things that I don't know what'll take up its space. More ink.
Probably more ink. I think that that's also something that I try to be mindful of in terms of my stash of supplies and whatnot is, am I keeping this because it's something I'm going to use, or am I keeping it because of wishful or aspiring to kind of use it at some stage? Oftentimes, if it sits in the wishful or aspiring to use it, it ends up making me feel more guilty than joyful. Sure, I enjoy having the stuff and I enjoy organizing my pens in rainbow water and all of that kind of a thing. But oftentimes, then when I cast thine gaze upon the supplies, I'm like, oh, I really should use that. I want to leave behind shoulding. No more shoulding. All right. If I'm not going to use it, it's all good. Just let it go. Let it go fulfill its destiny somewhere else and let go of the guilt associated with hoarding things that I'm not using.
Yeah, I think that's very much of my mindset right now as I'm moving into that. I mean, one of the things I was looking at the other day, I was like, oh, I need a pencil. I have like four mechanical pencils, like nice pencils that are right in front of me. I'm like, well, why would I turn around and just grab like a little Bic mechanical pencil that I have like stacks of over here just because I've been collecting them? I was like, they're right in front of you. And I was like, I should just edit that down and maybe put something else inside of there. And then the other day I was going through it and I have like old glitter like flares for some reason. I don't know why, how I obtained them. I mean, they're cool, but I'm not really using that. And so it's like another space inside of my pen holder that maybe I could edit down. I mean, I've got like a bucket like literally next to me. I have an entire thing of pencils and I never grab for any of these pencils ever. And I think they're fun, they're cool, like they're different shapes, all of this, but like they aren't my go-to. Like I go and I grab for like my nice like metal ones now, like these clutch pencils are much cooler than like these that are here. And so I think it is just for me like that's going to be kind of a big thing, and it is kind of going into the new year. I'll probably have it after the new year, honestly, but like going in with the mindset of like, let's use the nice things that we have as I'm maturing into my stationery is what I'm calling it right now. And like you said, let someone else love the glitter flares because I'm not loving them right now.
Exactly. Go let them fulfill their destiny elsewhere. But another question we received was actually, we received quite a few questions around this, but the idea of journaling consistency and making sure that you're getting into your journals, actually using them and such, in particular around building daily routines, possibly weekly routines around them. So, what would be your tips around building journaling consistency?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is having it out and open. We talked about that barrier to entry, literally, if you're closing your notebook and you're not looking at it. I know for me, having my notebook open on my desk as I'm working is really important. I have it open when I leave my desk. There are times definitely when I have to close it if it's like water or liquid or ink or anything like that that might be on the desk as a safety mechanism for the notebook. But really just having that open and right there, I think is key. There are times where sometimes I will like put it, I have this like little monitorizer that has a space in it. And sometimes I'll put my notebook in there and then I'll get like halfway through the day and I'll be like, oh my gosh, you haven't written anything inside of how are you functioning right now? You haven't looked at your to-dos. Like, what are you doing? I'm just like living out of my email. And I'm like, I have to be mindful. I take it out, I open it up. I'm like, you are here to be used. Like, let's not do this again. So that for me, I think is the biggest thing you can do is just having it out. And then the other thing that I do is I just put time blocks on my calendar for like 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening. Mostly it's like before work is over, like the last 10 minutes of the day. And that's where I actually sit down. Everything else is off, no instant messaging, no email, no nothing. And I just look at my notebook and I work it in 10 minutes, read over the things for the day, go along my day, do the whole thing. And then my little pop up comes up at the end of the day. I kind of just download everything that happened, make sure I cross off any tasks that were complete, and then really just kind of take a look at what's going to happen the next day. So I think for me, that's probably the best advice when it comes to like making sure that you're using it. How about yourself?
I think that the main thing for me when it comes to, journaling consistently is actually to question what consistently means. Because for some journaling, for some notebooks we're using, for some planners or whatnot, the daily touch isn't necessary. It's not actually what is needed for that notebook or for that space. For my everyday journal, yeah, it's in the name. It's the everyday touch. If I don't get in there on a daily basis, I usually start to feel a little bit like a scatterbrained mess type deal. Like me currently, who is the term raw dogging? I'm raw dogging this day. I haven't written myself a task list. I have no idea what's going on. It's certainly a choice, but things are still happening. Though I would prefer to have gotten in and actually written myself a task list. For that journal, yes, a daily touch is kind of what the expectation is in terms of consistency, but there will still be days that I don't use it. But that doesn't mean I don't think of myself as like a consistent journaler or planner. Oftentimes the times when I'm most likely to not use it are going to be when I am busiest. And I kind of just hope to give myself a little grace in that situation. Like, yeah, you had a lot going on, so you didn't touch your journal. What I typically like to do to kind of combat that is set up structures in my journals that mean that if I have time away from it, it's not really super obvious. That's why I use daily logs, because I can put my daily logs down for Thursday, and then if I don't touch it on Friday or Saturday and just get back to it on Sunday, it's cool. There's no giant blank space being like, "Brr, brr, brr, you didn't use your journal, brr, you're a journaling failure, brr." Like, I don't want my journaling or my planning to feel like negative. I don't want it to fill me with feelings of like, oh wow, I suck. I didn't like get in every single day and use it type of a deal. So I will set my layouts up so that they do not highlight the periods where I haven't been there, which means that when you see flip throughs on my channel and such, everything looks fairly consistent and filled in and all of those kind of things, unless it's a monthly tracker, because Jess versus the monthly tracker, like, it's not going to happen. But for those dailies, they're all in there. They all look very kind of complete and filled in and such. But if you go and read the titles, there are definitely days missing. Just doesn't bother me so much because I can't really obviously see that.
I think you're exactly on point. And it was a real big thing for me this year. I think you had mentioned it earlier in this year that like you don't have to necessarily be in your journal every single day. Like some days it's just not necessary. So let's not make ourselves feel bad about it. The most important though part is that you do come back to it though, right? It's this idea that like day one, like you're like, oh, I don't need it today. I'm busy. I already know my plan. Maybe you don't need it. But then when you're like day two, day three, and then suddenly it just is completely out of your normal routine, and that's when it gets a little bit dangerous because in our minds we're like, well, we don't need that anymore, like we're good. But exactly like you just said though, I think you start to realize it when you start to like listen to yourself that you're like a scatterbrained mess and you're like, nope, this is not it, like we got to get back on track 100%.
Yeah, and I also feel that like if you do find yourself consistently not getting back to it, like, going days that you're not getting in and touching in it and like checking in with your plans or whatever, then it's just an opportunity to ask why. Like, do a check in, say, like, okay, well, what is holding me back from this? Is it because I set up layouts I don't like? Is it because the pen that I'm using takes too long to dry and I feel like I don't even have the time to dedicate to letting the ink dry? I just need to get in, scrappy note things down, and then get out type of a deal. If you figure out the actual reason behind whatever's holding you back from getting in, doing your journaling, doing your planning, then you can plan ways forward, as opposed to just being like, wah, woe is me, I'm so inconsistent, like nothing is good in my journaling practice. Sure, wallowing in self-pity and such, it has a time and place, but oftentimes it doesn't necessarily lead to behavior change that is going to be most helpful for us. So probe a little further, dig a little deeper. What is the actual reason that you're finding it challenging? And then thinking about how to address that, whether by changing up the supplies or the layout or making it easier or making it take less time or anything else.
Amazing advice, Jess. This is why you're just the planner queen. You're so on point. All right, our next question is an interesting one. We did hear a lot about this in our previous episode that talked a lot about like the economy right now. And this question was, with the current economy, how do I still plan but on a budget and keep it looking beautiful? What do you reckon?
Oh, I reckon the decoration, like if we're thinking about decoration as a form of beautification for your journal, decoration doesn't have to be expensive. There are a lot of budget friendly decoration sources. It's just whether using those aligns with your personal preferences. Like, you can jump on the Temus. Yeah, I'm that person, the Temus, and go and get your stickers and such. You can jump on, say, sites like Journal Say or whatever else, but you can also decorate and make your journal look pretty without actually having to use additional supplies. You can use the materials you already have. And yeah, I'm thinking about bringing back doodling kind of a thing. You can do that because there are very simple, very straightforward ways to decorate that are quite forgiving, especially if you're drawing organic shapes where you don't need perfect circles and perfectly uniform geometric lines. Though, having said that kind of work in a journal, oh, chef's kiss. Some people do some absolutely beautiful things with just straight lines. If you're the kind of person who finds that even with a ruler you can't draw a straight line, maybe that's not the decorative style you're going to tend towards. But there are very simple basic tutorials online that you can follow for doing doodle based decoration. Or maybe you can simplify your planning, go with something a little more minimal, something that's really just like a black pen in your notebook, and focus more of your efforts in terms of decoration or like aesthetics on just making your handwriting look nicer. Because I don't know, there's something very appealing about a well written list with nice handwriting. Like, I went through my Instagram saves the other day because I was distracted, and some of the ones that I have in there, the handwriting gave me like the cute aggression. I was like, oh, your handwriting should be a font. I'm so angry. Why is my handwriting so naff compared to yours?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to really kind of just sit back and like really think. I mean, one of the things we talked about was just shopping your own stash. I mean, you already have the items more than likely. So instead of going out and buying more just to fulfill that need of shopping, just take a look at what you already have and use that instead. Maybe go and explore different ways to use something. So, like, something that I still love to do is actually like if you have a brush pen, like the Tombos, for instance, using them like watercolor is something that like I learned a while ago, and I thought this is so cool. Just get yourself like pizza plastic or saran wrap or whatever. You put your marker on that, and then you put a little drip of water, and then you can paint with the marker like paint. So it's just one of those things where you just find different uses for those things. I would also say, really invest in quality over quantity. I talk a lot about this, with fountain pens, but I also talk about this when it comes to like stamps. Now, again, pot, kettle, black, I have a lot, don't get me wrong, but like if I was not buying as much anymore, I would go and just be very particular about the things that I'm buying. Instead of just buying all of the things, I would take a look and say, like, of these things, what am I going to use the most? So, like, most of the time, if I had to kind of really rethink my approach, I would say, okay, I know that I'm setting up weekly, so I'm going to find a stamp that has really nice, like, day of the week font that I can stamp really nice and easily. And then maybe something has like a little bit of decoration, a shape, organic, whatever it might be, but just buy one of those and then really focus on like interchanging those, stacking them, using different materials together. That's how I would approach it, especially if I was on a budget for myself. Just really taking a step, looking at that. And if you have to, and I know this is a really hard thing, unsubscribe from the stationery emails. Like every time I get an email from one of those, it's like new sale, new thing, 40% off, any of those. It might be difficult, but it's a really great way to like just be like, nope, I don't need any more of this. I'm just going to unsubscribe from now, and they'll be happy to have you back later on when you're maybe in a better spot or the overall economy is in a better spot as well.
Yeah, I also think that if you do still want to acquire new things and bring them into your stash to do, decoration in your journal, beautify your planners, all of that type deal, I would focus on materials that you can use flexibly rather than something that is going to be like a cool, I get to use this for like 1 week and that's it type of a deal. So rather than buying a sticker kit or something that has, very set numbers of the types of stickers that you have in there, it can really only be used for a very finite period of time. Focus on getting things that have either like a larger quantity that then maybe you could use over multiple months, multiple weeks or something, supplies that you can use multiple times, like stamps. So rather than buying an individual sticker of something, can you buy a stamp that you can use effectively infinitely? Provided you're not like ham fisting your stamp and like break it up to the second use or something. Shrug. Does that happen? Do people like crack stamps? Can you crack a stamp?
I mean, if it's old and like dry rotted, technically, and if you're very strong, I mean, I guess technically you could maybe rip one in half or something like that. But most of the time, no, you're good. They're a polymer, they're rubber, they're acrylic, but not hard acrylic. So like you're usually pretty good.
Alrighty, so yeah, go with stamps and don't be a ham-fisted maniac who's out there like punching their fist through their journal trying to stamp things. But if you can have multi-use items, ones that it's like a buy once, use multiple times, that can also be a way forward for that. If you had to set yourself a budget, I know that we got this question. If you had to set yourself a budget for how much stationery you were to buy in a year, what would your budget be?
Let's put some context around this. This is things that I am purchasing with my own money or things that I can like use store credit for and other things like that.
Oh, see, that's the tricky part, eh? Because I'm like, for me, I'm like, I can spend none because store credit and stuff like this. So if you had to spend your own money, like let's just assume that you don't have store credit anywhere, you don't have any like vouchers or anything like that, and you had to set an actual stationary budget for a full year, what would it be?
Maybe $2,000, which seems like a lot. And the only reason I'm saying that is like I like to buy fountain pens throughout the year, but I'm not buying them all the time, right? And those can add up. I'm also thinking about just like general materials that I also purchase like over and over again. That like restock, kind of restash. And I also give myself buffer because sometimes I'll come up with like a brand new idea. Like you had talked about on one of the last episodes, how you reorganized your entire stickers into the albums. So I went ahead and I purchased an album and all of the same things and reorganized all of my stickers as well. And so like I needed a budget to do that because it was a smarter idea. That's kind of how it looked. It seems like a lot, but I mean, I guarantee I probably spend Hopefully not more than that, but I probably do. I mean, in the long run of like all the different things that I buy for myself, but it's probably also very different too, because like I would also like put stuff into my studio in here as well. So like extension cords and materials and cameras and lighting and equipment and stuff like that. Um, I know that's not stationary, so maybe it shouldn't be a part of that. So I'll just go with $2,000. I'm living that big life over here.
Big stationary life. What? I think for me, first of all, I have to figure out the conversion in my head. Ugh, quick math. I can't do that. And also have to consider the shipping cost. Because in the assumption that I'm not getting store credit or vouchers or whatever, everything costs at least twice as much. Sweet. So I think that, like, if I was trying to challenge myself, I think that I could do a genuine low buy stationary year and maybe spend like, I'm going to say like 150 New Zealand, so like, I don't know, 70-ish US. I could probably get away with it based on what I have in my stash already. Based on following my joy though, I would probably bump that up to closer to maybe 500 New Zealand, so like 300-ish US. I could probably, comfortably get away with that. I know that at this stage in my stationary collecting life, there's not a lot I need, and I'm pretty happy with the stuff I have. So it would mainly just be those like, one-time releases from Archer and Olive where they have the absolutely beautiful cover and I absolutely have to have it. I've gotten to a point where I don't let the FOMO get to me quite as much. I can kind of appreciate the beauty of the item and not actually purchase it for myself. But there's probably going to be a couple of designs that come out next year that I'm like, nope, the FOMO got me. I'm getting that notebook. I need it.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting to the point now with a lot of that too, where I'm doing the same exact thing with notebooks. I just realized like I just have so many. It has to really be something amazing. I mean, I just got the subscription box for December that has notebooks inside of it. So like it really is adding up quick. I don't know. Now that I'm rethinking, I feel like $2,000 is a lot of money, but I have to like. But again, I'm only saying that much money because like sometimes there are fountain pens that cost a lot of money. I mean, the one I was talking about before is like $350. So like that right there blows your entire year low cost budget. I guess I'm not buying any new pens if I were to really keep to it. But I mean, if I was really hard pressed and like really didn't have any extra money or anything else like that, I could probably, I mean, I don't have to buy another notebook for at least the next 30 years, honestly. Like, I have more notebooks than I could use, markers. I have plenty of ink. I would never have like a Tom Studio pen, and all my ink, I would never run out of ink or a pen to write with. So, like, I could go very low, I guess, if I needed to, but that would make me very sad. Like, what if Eric Small Things came out with a new collection and I didn't have any more budget because I was lowballing myself? And I'm not doing that to myself.
Yeah, exactly. We wouldn't want you to have like a missing part of your Eric Small Things collection. I like to think of your office as like a shrine to Eric Small Things. I don't think you're quite like that level, but that's the way I like to think of it.
So, like back behind me, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, there is a shelf right here. It's out of focus, but all of this is just all Eric Small Things gear. And I have a glass that's above it that's Eric Small Things. I just actually placed an order that has more stuff on the way. I love Eric Small Things. I absolutely love it. She's amazing.
Too good. Our next question, though, was surrounding the idea of trending terminology in the planner community. Specifically, what are your most and least liked planning terms or phrases from 2025? Do you have any that come to mind as ones that stick out as like yeah, I like that, I use that, versus absolutely not, that gives me the heebie-jeebies?
One of my favorite that you said earlier, I think it was this year or last year, was fussy cutting. I don't know. That's just a very funny like thing, and it's funny because I was about to buy. I guess I don't know if it's called a fussy cutter, but I saw one the other day. There goes my stationary budget, and I was like, should I buy it? I don't need it. I'm not fussy cutting anything, but like I want it just because Jess said it. That's probably my favorite term that I learned this year, and my most unfavorite term is overconsumption. I am over the overconsumption conversation. I think that it is silly, and I think people just like to hate, and they need to focus on themselves. And I'm going to stop before I get myself in trouble and us canceled for saying something really nasty. But that's the word I don't like this year.
Especially like as spoilers for our next episode, guess what we're talking about in the first episode of next year. But I think for me, the term that irks me, and it's like it's such a nothing thing to get irked about, but I still get irked about it, is the idea of waterfall tabs. Because they're not tabs, like not really. They're waterfall Dutch doors, yes, but not really tabs. Because if I'm thinking waterfall tabs, I would be thinking of like individual little pieces of like card that stick out the side of your notebook that go from top to bottom. So eventually, just a tab system. Like it doesn't need the term waterfall at all. It's just tabs. But waterfall tabs, big quotation marks, are when you have a series of pages and the page that's like towards the back of the journal is at full width. Then the one that's in front of that is slightly narrower. The one that's in front of that is slightly narrower, so that you have this quote waterfall of pages going like from the start of the journal to the back. You know, usually not for the entire of the journal, but for a series of subsequent pages. And I think of it as waterfall Dutch doors because that's essentially what you're making. You're cutting down your page to make what people would call a vertical Dutch door, but I don't really see them as tabs, so I get irked at the terminology of waterfall tabs. The actual process of it, though, I think it's very fun. Like, it's a good way to add some visual interest and decoration, but the term, I don't like it.
You can't see my face during this conversation. I am not gonna lie. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I've never. I don't even. I know what a Dutch door is, and I know that I will never cut my paper to make. I will do a faux Dutch door. I'll just fold my little piece of paper in half to make it look like a Dutch door. But I do not know what you're talking about. What the hell's a waterfall tab? I just feel like it's a piece of paper that's folding down. And you're setting that up for like a month, or people are doing this like their whole notebook. They're cutting their pages by like a quarter of an inch every page.
Typically, you wouldn't do it for the entire of the journal, but as like a piece of monthly decoration, you'd do it for that. So maybe some people would do it for an entire month, but most of the time it's just for the kind of start of month setup. So all of your monthly pages or monthly collections or whatnot would be on this waterfall system or whatnot. So you can kind of see this panel of decoration down the side and you can easily flip to the pages or whatnot. I mainly consider it to be a decorative technique than a really super functional one, but I don't consider these to be tabs. Like, it's a waterfall of Dutch doors. It's not a waterfall of tabs.
I guess so, if you say so. I don't really. I don't. Yeah. Well, that's why it bothers Jess and not me. I feel like I'm like not a planner person because I don't know what the hell that thing. I feel like I've seen it. Maybe I just haven't known what it's called before.
Yeah, so you see like the
Oh,
first
that's
page,
pretty.
and then the second page, and
Yeah.
then the third, and then the fourth.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
you get to the side, it's like, which you can barely see, but goes ding, 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 kind of down
Yeah.
the side.
I don't know that I'd love that personally. Just like I don't like to cut my pages all together. I think, like I was saying, oh, a Dutch door. No, the best thing that I learned this year was a tip in and how to do those properly, and that game changer for me. Never had to cut another piece of paper in my notebook again. Fantastic.
Well, we definitely got a question about Dutch doors and whether we were pro Dutch doors. I love a Dutch door. I think Dutch doors are a lot of fun. They're a nice way to add some kind of a, visual interest if you're doing it decoratively, or can also be functional if you want to have more kind of real estate on a page, but you don't need like a full another page. Or if you want to set up a multi spread collection, but don't want to have to redo your title. That's a great reason to have a Dutch door. You just cut away the top of the page, you put the title in once, and then you just have the little Dutch door that contains all the information. Mark, I take it you are not pro Dutch door?
No, I've anytime I've ever done a Dutch door, I've just folded my piece of paper in half because I don't want because it feels wasteful to me. That's why I would rather, if I want to hide information or anything, I'll just fold my page over to make it look cool. But like the last time I did a faux Dutch door was several bullet journals ago, and I think even one time I tried to do it because everybody else was doing it. I think I used a stamp. It was like a dog or something like that. I forget. And then I didn't have a fussy cutter, but I could have fussy cutted all the way around their little ears. And then I did it. And I was like, this to me was dumb. It was a waste of space. It was a waste of materials. Like I could have written on that extra paper. But that's just me. And that's why I am anti Dutch door for reals. I mean, I think it looks cool. Don't get me wrong. I get why people do it. But at the same time, I'm like, if you just use your index, you can easily find those pages. You don't got to cut away several pieces of paper. And how do you plan for that? It's like, how do I know that I'm going to need that many pages cut for that topic? Like that's just me. But let's move on from that topic again before I get myself in trouble with all of our planner pals. This next question was a really good one, Jess, because I know you and I both probably suffer from this at different varying levels. I know other people do, especially if you have ADHD or you feel as if you might have it. Time blindness. Someone asked a question on how do we deal with time blindness and if we had any tips for being less blind to time.
I think that for me, it depends on whether you're thinking about like macro time blindness or micro time blindness because I have different techniques for either of them. So with macro time blindness, this is mainly Jess and her eternal beef against the monthly calendar. She cannot even because you want to do something in the middle of the month, but then this month has this many days, so the middle of the month is at this number day, but then that's in the middle of the week, and that's not an opportune time to do the thing, and it just it irks me. So in terms of that one and tracking the passage of time, I don't like months. I like cycles. So a cycle is a 4-week block. It means that each of those weeks is 25% of the block of time. It's a lot easier to kind of compare where, in theory, I would like to be up to with any goal or project compared to the time that I have in that cycle. I really love that. That's for my macro time and macro planning. That and quarterly planning. Love quarterly planning. But when it comes to kind of more micro time blindness, I just love the power of a visible timer. Like actually being able to see the time passing is really helpful. So sometimes I will set myself a timer on just like a YouTube watch page. I actually have some on my channel in an unlisted folder of just different time spans and timers for things. So like a 1 minute, a 2 minute, a 5, a half hour, like all of those type of things. But Vogel also got me this little desk timer, which has different time amounts on the side, and you just kind of flip it over to whatever time span you want, have that pointing up, and then it just starts counting down for you. And you can, set it so that it makes noise. I don't like it to make noise, so I just have the time counting down for me, and at the end it's just like and scares the crap out of me, but reminds me that hey, time is passing and you should be aware of it.
I was going to say, yeah, I have a very similar one. I actually almost bought the one that you have because I was like, oh, that's cool too. I would say that, like, as a person who has I literally have multiple timers in my life. So, like, I have my little tick timer, is what this one's called. Same deal. It has, what is it, 3, 5, 10, 25, 30, 15. I think that's all of them. And yeah, you just turn it to the time and it counts down. I don't look at it when I count it down, even though it does do it. I use this all day long with work because I am the person who will be like, oh, I've got like 20 minutes until my meeting, and I'll go and like pay attention to something else and then completely forget that meeting's there, and then I'm late. So anytime that I do that, what I do with it is I have 20 minutes until my meeting. I set a 15-minute timer. It goes off. I just join my meeting early and I'm already there. That's a really big thing for me. If what I've really noticed for myself too this year, especially like getting officially diagnosed with ADHD, is like, oh, turns out you can't accomplish a 30-minute task in 15 minutes. Right. I mean, it's a wild concept. I know. Right. But for me is like, and I'm saying this is like, if you feel as if you really have a problem with it, and this is a thing, and it was for me, like this is years and years of issues with it, where I was like, this is causing a problem in my life. I went ahead and got officially diagnosed, and it turns out that ADHD meds help you a lot with that. So like I now like it really is helping me a lot, where your brain suddenly like realizes that you can accomplish something that's going to take 30 minutes or more in less time. Just like, oh no, I'll just do that right after I do this thing and I have the time to do it. So that like was super helpful for me. So, but I'm not like telling you like go get diagnosed or take medicine if you have time blindness. Like use a timer first, like baby steps, multiple timers if you need to. And then the other thing for long-term time blindness, I guess, and really that I just put everything in my calendars all the time, everything possible. So everything goes in my calendar. And something new I've been doing for myself is if I have an appointment that's at 9 a.m., I will set my timer for 8:30, but in the title, put the time of my appointment. So that way I'm leaving 30 minutes early or preparing myself to get there on time. Whereas usually I'm like, alert for 9 o'clock for a 9 o'clock appointment. Oh crap, I'm late. I haven't left the house yet. So like that's been little like tips that I've been doing for myself.
Yeah, I'm definitely the kind of person who, if I have an appointment on my calendar, I will also book in the travel time as a separate thing. So I can see, like, okay, here's the appointment in the time slot the appointment will actually be, but there is a block of time right before it that just says travel. And I've got like a travel color on my calendar. So all of those are color coded to say, like, you need to get to the place to do the thing. I loved your point about, oh, yeah, I've got a meeting in 20 minutes, so I'll just go and do this thing and then, get distracted or whatnot. Whereas I'm the kind of person who's like, I have a meeting in 20 minutes, I can do nothing. Nothing is possible. 5-minute task? No, I won't. I won't even look at you. I have an appointment at 3 o'clock and it's currently 10 a.m. I can do nothing. I have to just wait around for this 3 o'clock appointment. It's like my brain won't let me get into anything just on the off chance that I might get distracted and miss it.
Yeah, it's a real problem. Hopefully, these tips are helpful for you in your time blindness, and definitely other people share, in the comments too as we go through with this. Like, if any of you have solutions, let us know. We literally our comment section sometimes is just self help. Honestly, it's the help desk for your life. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about the planners and going in there. We definitely don't want to skip over our pals. Suggest you want to pick up the first question we have from our pals.
Alrighty, so one of the questions that I thought was fun, especially around this time of year where people are all getting their like YouTube wrapped, was who are some of your favorite channels or creators to watch on YouTube, whether they be planning related or other interests? Did you get your top five? Did you look through them? Go on, tell us.
I am my most watched YouTube channel.
Were you in the top like 0.1% of viewers?
Well, okay, so my top five was myself. So mark your pages. My number two was Call Her Daddy because I love the celebrity interviews, and those are like 2.5 hour long episodes. Number three was the Planner Pals podcast.
It's too good. I love that you're like our biggest supporter, Mark. Thank you.
Well, sometimes I forget what we talk about.
I mean, that's fair. We do go on a lot of tangents.
And then after that, I think it was like New Rock Stars and maybe Screen Crush were the other ones, and probably a lot of stuff on Marvel Rivals. I play a lot of Marvel Rivals, so like I watch a lot of content on those creators. So like those are mine. I would say, it's always funny, we talk about this a lot with like other people that we watch. And clearly I'm too busy watching myself and us to watch anybody else's content when it comes to planners. But sometimes I will like pop on a video, I'll go through and scroll and be like, I haven't gone around enough and done this. So like I will watch a lot of Julia Here's content because I love her fountain pen videos and how she swatches and all of that. Another one I watch is Rachel in Theory. Every now and again, I'll pop back onto her channel because she has some really interesting videos and really interesting topics that she talks through too. As something just it's inside of the planner space, but it's not like bullet journaling. It's very different. So, and also I know like she works a regular full-time job as well. So like she's utilizing that and I do too. So like I would say like in the planner space and like fountain pen space, it's those. So like I would say like those are there. I'm really into like Job's journal as well. I'll watch his just because he's like traveling around the world and like stuff like that. So I peek in and out. I don't like watch anybody hardcore. Really, Amanda Rachel Lee. Sometimes I'll pop into hers too if I'm just thinking about journalers. Jess, obviously, like I'm not just watching you on Planner Pals, but I will watch a lot of your stuff, especially when you're setting up like some new cool journal. I know like your life journal that you gamified still is like such a cool one, but also you just have such great tips as well. So really, I would say those are it for that. And then gaming, like Swanee Plays Games is a channel I watch a lot of because he talks about a lot of the games that I like too, and I like his style. There's probably 1,000 other ones that I will watch like for the video itself, but then not subscribe. It takes a lot for me to subscribe to a non-journaling channel to really be like, oh yeah, I want more of your content versus just searching for it. How about yourself?
Yeah, in terms of journaling, very much will I watch every release from you because I'm a supporter like that. I will watch every one of Erin's releases. I used to Erin Smith, that is. I used to watch a lot of journal content, but nowadays I've found my interests have kind of just shifted a little bit. So I don't really watch as much journal content as I used to. But in the kind of journaling planning space, I do watch Sarah Cannon, and Heart Breathings. She has two channels. So I watch pretty much every release from her as well, even the ones that are about like being an author and publishing novels and such. I'm like, I have literally zero intention to write a novel, but I will watch it anyway because again, she's good at it. I want to support her. But then in terms of other interests, I feel like I've really kind of branched out in terms of my other YouTube related interests this year. And one of those was the Influencer Insanity series from Hannah Alonso. I got completely suckered into that, watched every episode of that. But typically speaking, her channel is about MLMs, multi-level marketing and such, and stories that people have as related to those, and kind of deep dives into the payment plans of those MLMs and all of that kind of thing. So I've just been watching a bunch of that. That was really interesting for me this year. And much to your dismay, also overconsumption content. I have definitely been watching a lot of that. So Shauna, I think her name's Shauna Rapari. I'm probably saying that wrong. I probably said her first name wrong. Apologies, not Shauna. I will learn your name, I promise, but I've been watching a lot of her content as well. And then just other kind of like random bits and pieces around overconsumption and kind of like TikTok overconsumption in particular, and a whole bunch of like rage bait videos. I've learned a lot of really good terminology surrounding TikTok this year. For somebody who doesn't go on TikTok a lot, I feel like it really opened my eyes to that. But outside of those, for the most part, YouTube is just like a learning tool for me. So oftentimes I won't necessarily watch a specific creator. I will go to YouTube with a specific problem or area of interest or something like that, and then watch, like effectively give myself a little deep dive by watching a bunch of things about that thing. But yeah, in terms of top channels, it'll be you, Aaron Smith, Hannah Alonso. Those would be like my main three.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and I'm similar. I mean, I listen to all of mine. I don't watch them as much as I listen to them, so I almost do kind of treat them like an audio podcast of videos. So that's what I do a lot if I'm taking like a long drive or somewhere far, like 20 minutes. You know, most videos are usually under that, unless it's like a super long podcast episode, and I'm like listening to it for days when I'm in the car. But yeah, it is just sometimes just like that's how and where I'm consuming a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I have to also be in like a mood, you know, to like really sit down with the video. That's why I also really appreciate like all of our like individual followers, like on each of our own channels, and also for this one, like to sit down and like watch a video from somebody, it means a lot, especially like I'm sitting here like I don't like a lot of that type of content. But I think it's also because like you and I are also making the content, you know? So like I'm so over enamored with like notebooks and planning systems and ways to do it. And I'm always like, what about something different? So like taking like a break from that main content, like I said, even though like Julia talks about journaling and her pens, I'm watching mostly her like pen videos and inks because like I said, they're beautiful. But it's also like a break from like the everyday. So I always, again, big shout outs to everyone who follows and listens and watches and comments, because like you're the real OGs and we love you. All right, this next one's a really good one, Jess. I'm just going to read it word for word because I won't be able to paraphrase it. When you guys met in person for the first time, what were each of your apprehensions, expectations, fears, doubts, etc. of the friendship that you had and of them? Like, were you afraid you would end up not liking them as much?
I'm always more afraid that somebody's gonna like not like me as much, if that makes sense, because I have been proven time and time again throughout my life that I am an acquired taste and I am certainly not everybody's cup of tea. So I'm always worried that people are gonna get like the wrong impression of me online and then meet me in real life and be like, oh, what a disappointment. So I think I was probably more concerned about that. Also, just like didn't realize how tall you were.
I know mine was going to be, I didn't realize how short you were. I think like when we met for the first time in DC, I was like, oh, there's Jess. Oh my God, she's so little.
Just like, oh my god, who's that tower over there? Oh my god, it's Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us, I mean, I feel like we've talked so much and like have known each other. I mean, I think I've mentioned it before, like when we didn't know each other as well, like we weren't like super close. I basically was like, Jess is going to want to do nothing with me. She's this giant Instagram and YouTube account. She's like doing it right. And she's this giant influencer and all these great things like that. And I was just this little baby account. And I was like, nobody wants anything to do with me. But the great thing is that good people that are in this community will blow you away. Like that's just kind of how people are. Is like you can just if it's right and you can have an actual genuine conversation. I think that's the other thing is like whether you're talking to someone who's an influencer or bigger on YouTube, like just having a normal conversation is like the best part about like a day to day. Like I really appreciate that because that's I think how our friendship started, just like back and forth and things like that. I don't know about like apprehensions, but like things that I thought like, I mean, what I've always appreciated about you, Jess, is that you are very like blunt about things. Like if you don't like something, you know, you don't beat around the bush. Like you just like, nope, I don't like that, or I don't believe that, or that's not the way that I think. Where like I'm a people pleaser, so I'm like, oh, you like that? Oh, that's great. And meanwhile, I'm like, oh God, how do I get out of this conversation? This is awkward and weird. So that's just something that I've really appreciated. But I also kind of knew a little bit of it. So like my apprehension was like, is Jess gonna like me? Is because I talk a lot. I can be annoying, and I know that. Like, it's a very self-aware thing. So like, how do I find ways to balance that and not piss Jess off? Because the last person that would ever want mad at me would be you, because I feel like I would, like, my soul would be burning and I would feel so bad, even if I didn't do anything wrong. Like, I would just be like, how did I make Jess mad at me? And she'll never forgive me, and she'll hold this grudge for the rest of her life.
Yeah, she's stubborn like that. She's very good at being stubborn like that. But I do at least appreciate that we kind of have the same apprehension of like, oh god, what if we're annoying? But like, not if the other person's annoying, like us individually. What if I am annoying? Definitely always a concern point. I also appreciate that you think I'm blunt. Maybe I'm just blunt for you because I feel like you need it.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. All of the people in my life that are like that, probably out of necessity. Like, and I also tend to gravitate towards people who are my opposite. Like, one of my best friends at work, I called him my opposite. Like, I was like, type A, woo, big ideas, all these things. And he was like, cool, Mark, now let's go ahead and focus and let's write this on the whiteboard and break this down into steps of how we're going to accomplish this thing that you have these big ideas about. And that's also why I think you and I are friends, because you do the same thing with me, where I'm like, want to do a podcast and have some fun and talk about stationery? You're like, sure. What's your business plan? What do you plan on doing in the next 2 years? How will this work? What are your expectations from me? And I'm like, oh, yeah, good questions.
What, they're supposed to be planning in the Planner podcast? Nobody signed me up for that. That's ridiculous. Well, regardless of our apprehensions, even if it was just about us coming off as individually weird, I'm just glad that we actually got to meet up, because there's always something very special about getting to meet your online friends in person. And given that I live where I live, that opportunity does not present itself very often. We did definitely get a question about planner meetups though. Have you guys ever been to a planner meetup? If yes, how was it? If not, how do you feel about the idea of it? Well, yes, have been to a planner meetup, have organized some, either in like my kind of city or whatnot. Some of them have been more successful than others. I always love it when you plan a meetup and you have a whole bunch of people RSVP, like, yeah, I'm going to be there. And then you show up and nobody's there. You're like, well, I guess I'll just have a day out by myself. Thankfully, it was not that bad. I actually had other planner friends come with me, and we're like, okay, cool, nobody else showed up. We will just have a day by ourselves going and doing things that we want to do. So that was cool. But pretty much any time I travel, in particular, if I travel to go wild or something like that, I do try and organize some kind of planner meetup with people who are there, because I know that we do have an international community. And it's always nice to be able to meet planner pals in the wild. So that is something that I try and prioritize. It's just that the hardest thing for me is figuring out where to meet, because you don't necessarily know how many people are going to be there. And there are a lot of considerations around, like, time of year, weather, whether we can all sit together. Do I have to buy food if I'm going to be there? If people do have to buy food, is it the kind of thing you can split a bill? Because as much as I love my planner pals, I don't really want to foot the bill for all of your food if we're going to be eating. So that's always a kind of concern point for me. But in general, I do love planner meetups. It's just nice to get to hang out with people who are enthusiastic about the same things as you are, even if, we're all from different walks of life. We all have different kind of backgrounds and whatnot, but that shared love of something is a really good kind of basis for potential friendships.
Yeah, mine, the only thing I've ever come close to has been Go Wild as like a planner meetup kind of thing, and going to like the one that you planned, because I don't do anything like that usually. Like, it's not in my day today. So I think for me, like, it's very cool. I would like to do more of them, but honestly, like, in my normal day to day life and job with like a family and all of that, like, it's just not like a major priority. There are some like Baltimore meetups and like DC, Virginia, and things like that, but I don't think I would travel far for that. I don't feel like I'm doing anything maybe substantial with my journal that like I would need to do something like that, or like get those ideas. I feel like between the stuff I'm already researching, doing myself, and then for some of the stuff that I'm seeing online, like I'm getting those ideas that way. I'm a social person. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love meeting people. I love meeting up and doing all of that. But other than Go Wild, I've never been to one, and I don't know if I would ever like really plan one. And like, well, I mean, the closest thing I did teach a class one time on bullet planning. So avoid that copyright. And so I did do that. So like technically a meetup, but I was teaching. I wasn't I mean, we did talk and we drank coffee and ate donuts, but like it was more about like a session or a class, less about like a meetup, even though we did like talk and share about those things. So that's probably the closest I feel like I've come.
Yeah, I know that in Melbourne in particular, they have a kind of monthly planner meetup that they book through the library. So everybody brings their planner supplies and such, and it's just very chill and whatnot. That's a really great way to build community if you want to start, having community connections in your area around the love of planning type of a deal. But I guess it really just depends on personal kind of like, preferences when it comes to the amount of social connection you need and the nature of that social connection. Like, if you're finding that your kind of circle of friends, you don't have people who have the shared interest of planning or the kind of like love of and enjoyment of stationery and such, and that's something that you want to have in person connection about or around, then having planner meetups can be a really fun way to do that, either by organizing them yourself, going into your local community groups or whatnot. Like, I'm thinking Facebook groups in particular, and just posting up to say, like, hey guys, I was thinking of organizing XYZ. Would anybody want to come? Or even just those kind of like online planner spaces that have a bunch of planners from a variety of different places that you can say, hey guys, I'm in insert city here. Would people want to meet up and like, have a planning afternoon or whatnot? Just enjoy each other's company and do some planning in our notebooks or whatnot. That can be very fun. It can be a very enjoyable process and a really nice way to make friends. But if that's not the kind of space that you want to make those types of connections around, then it isn't as much of a necessity, I suppose.
I don't know. That's actually a really good tip. I think that's a really smart way to think about it, especially if you're like new to an area or, you're not into sports or like going out to a bar or anything like that. At least you know that like the planning space, we're fun, we're quirky, we like stationery and notebooks, and you have an instant common interest and kind of never know where it grows from there. All right. Well, let's move on to our next segment. We've done planners, we've done pals. Now, so we have some questions about the behind the scenes of the podcast. And the first question that's on here is, what is your favorite part about doing this podcast?
This is the only part of my job, really, that has another person tied to it really like clearly specifically. Like, we have Francisca. Thank you, Francisca. She edits the podcasts now, makes our life so much easier. But I haven't actually like talked to her face to face. Similar idea. We've got like the moderation team over on my community Discord server. Like, obviously those are people that I'm interacting with as part of my job, but this is the only part of my job as of current where I interact with somebody face to face, and thus it is very, very valuable for me in that respect. So thank you for being my person, Mark.
Yeah, my answer to that question is exactly the same. This is the only time as a creator that I get to talk to somebody else who is equally interested in the topics. And if you are not interested in the specifics of it, you still will have a conversation with me about it versus ignoring me and like walking to a different office room. Like when I'm in the office and I'm trying to talk to somebody about stationery, they don't care. But it's just nice to be able to have exactly that as both creators ourselves. We are used to talking to a camera. We think about the Planner Pals and we think about our crews and our peoples and everything else like that as we're talking. That's why we make the content that we do. But it is great to be able to just have like a fun conversation about it. I'll just add also, like I mentioned before, like I also really like that we are not exactly the same so that we actually can have a meaningful conversation about something. And it's either me teaching you or you teaching me or us finding things out together. That's just really fun. So I would say for me, that would be the same exact answer.
Yeah, I think it's also in the respect of like being different people with differing opinions and such, it is also nice to kind of like just get out of your echo chamber every so often. Like, as somebody who has been like, for instance, going down a rabbit hole with overconsumption and all of these kind of things, it is nice to also have a voice for, not necessarily like yay overconsumption, but more so like nay overconsumption haters or whatever. You know where you're coming from. You get it. But it is good to be able to get that kind of like alternate opinion rather than just going on, building your own train of thought or your own kind of like understanding of a topic or whatnot. Getting somebody else's perspective is really nice. And also, I feel like I've learned a lot about how to take care of Iris. I know so much now. Is she doing it? No, but she knows how to take care of Iris.
Wait, have you not filled her up yet with the new ink?
She's still looking empty.
Jess, all you have to do is stick it in an ink and turn the top and it will have ink in it and you will be done.
She's not ready. She's not
Do
ready for
do it
it.
right now on camera so everyone can see you do it.
I'd make such a mess. I'd be so stressed out. Oh my gosh.
These next two questions I feel like go hand in hand, but let's, I guess, go with the first one because the first one has to happen before the second one. How do you manage filming in two different countries and still keep the podcast so fluent?
Thanks to Riverside for it did not we are not sponsored by Riverside, but Riverside is the I don't know application website whatever that we use to record these. It does mean that we can have pretty high quality. I mean, for the most part, since I rearranged my office, guys, I know it's slightly echoey. You've probably noticed, and if you haven't, I'm really sorry for pointing it out to you. But yeah,
I noticed.
me too. Especially when you hear one and then the other, you're just like, God, that's grating. I've really tried. I've tried to do some sound buffering, but that's the application that we use to record these. The actual kind of like biggest pain point is though the time change and the difference in time and having to do time math. Time math is the worst math.
And even though you've given me the same link to do the time math, I never use it. I'm always like, what is 6 p.m. your time? And you're like, Mark, use the link. I'm like, but what is it? I actually, on my phone, I do have New Zealand time on there. So like I can look and see what time it is like at that moment. And sometimes I'll do backwards math. But I will say that right now for us is the ideal time. Jess and I have been so productive with the podcast because we are able to meet multiple times a week because it is winter for me and it is summer for you, right? And our time variances are are like hours apart, like they're different days. Like Jess is living in the future, but it's closer to my timeline than usual. And so that's really great. But when I jump forward and Jess then goes backwards, we are like, it's not a good space for us because we also have lives, family, and other things too. And we're like, can we make this work? Like, it might be 9 p.m. for you, Mark, but it's like 8 o'clock in the morning for you. You know, it's like, it's very off. But that is definitely the hardest part for us. But luckily, everything else, though, I will say, like, goes pretty good from a standpoint. Like, we have a lot of like asynchronous ways of working. We have documents, ideas. We do have actual podcast meetings like once a quarter to be like, hey, let's plan this thing and like make sure we know what the hell we're talking about. But aside from that, though, I mean, I'm glad you all like that it's like up to date and that it's, you know, timely. So I appreciate you for appreciating that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I think is probably the hardest part about doing the podcast is that Mark like has a family and a life and actually wants to go and do things with them. Ridiculous. No, it's always summer because he's like off at the beach or whatever. And I'm just like, it is the dead of winter. Everything is ice. It's not that cold. But as somebody who doesn't do a lot with their summer outside of Vlogmas, I'm usually just chilling in my office, just waiting to record another episode. But Mark's off gallivanting around and doing fun things and such. If you were here, if you have been a planner pal since that awful episode where we tried to film him on location, let us know. God, that was like the color change across the episode because the sun was setting was so funny.
Yeah, I did that all on my phone. I think I had AirPods in. I was sitting on the floor in one of the bedrooms. And that was the time. Like after that, like Jess has never been more disgusted with any type of media that has ever existed from me or anyone else. And that's when we decided that we are doing like summer, like winter breaks, like when that happens. Because I'm a remote employee, my wife's a teacher, my kids are in school and they have off, and we spend long weeks away from like the normalcy. And that's when Jess and I are like, hey, I'll be like, I'm going to be home for 3 days. Can we make this work? Like, let's see what we can do. So yeah, it's definitely a fun time. But I was like, you know what? Like, we're not getting paid for this. It's not like we're sponsored by anyone. If you want to, by all means, feel free to reach out to us, plannerpalspodcast at gmail.com. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I don't want to let the Planner Pals down, but also like, I'm not going to stress us out over it, especially like during those times of the year. It just doesn't make sense.
I would love to try another like filmed on location one just for the lols of it, but the editing of it and like trying to get the sound sounding nice, like, oh, what a mission.
I could probably figure it out now that we have like the little mini mices. Like I would just have to hold it the whole entire time, but it would at least sound a lot better, I feel like. And I would go into a room that was light controlled. That would be the other thing too. I wouldn't be by a window. as the sun is setting. Lessons learned.
Like in the closet with a torch under a blanket with the mouse mic. Yeah, that sounds like it would be certainly interesting to watch.
I would do it for the podcast. I've done it for voiceover work before, literally exactly like that, to film a voiceover video for a YouTube video. No lie whatsoever, in a closet with a blanket over top of me and my phone light and a little microphone. I've done it.
Well, you certainly have less echo than I seem to have in my new office arrangement. I know that fixes need to be made, but I'll get there eventually.
Well, what we have to do, we either need to get you a sound screen, which I was thinking something we could put like in front of where you're talking, or I have them in my office. You can't see them here, but there's these little cool like hexagons you can stick on the wall, and that also absorbs sound, and they look really cool too. I'll send you a link.
Nice. Yeah, no, I figured my fix was just going to be to move house. Like, you know, very casual.
Yeah, or just, move everything to make it work for the podcast. Oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm just going to move house just for the podcast.
Well, the follow-up question to this is, and that's why I want to do that before this next question, which is, how long does it take you on average to film a podcast? Because it's like, okay, first we have to like schedule it and make it work for both of our times and lives. And then the recording of it and the timeline, I will let you go ahead and take this answer first.
It's been many moons. No, okay, it's like not that bad. But typically speaking, we usually schedule it for an hour. And sometimes we have something that happens right after that hour. So we kind of say in advance, like, okay, yeah, I need to leave at the top of the hour so that I can make it to XYZ type of thing. And even then, we still go over the hour, being like, okay, yeah, like I really need to go. I really need to wrap this up. If you can spot the episodes where we've had to finish the episode in a rush, I would love to know, because some of the endings get very much like, okay, cool, thanks, bye, we need to go, goodbye.
I would say when we first started, there was like no time limit. I mean, I think one of our very first episodes was almost 2 hours long. I think, like, because we were just talking, like, we didn't know. We were trying to figure it out. Like, before the Planner Pals podcast, and I was just talking to myself, like, there was nothing to react to. It was just me, monologuing, which sometimes in these episodes, it is just me monologuing as well, too. And I will say that that is something else, though, that has also kept us under time, is Jess's feedback. When I talk too much, and we usually edit it out, Jess is like, can I talk now? And I was like, I'm so sorry. I was just so passionate. Yeah, she raises her hand, and she waits for me to call on her to answer. But I also tried to be much more aware of that. I think when I used to be editing the podcast, I would notice it more, because I'd be like, Mark's blue clip forever. And like Jess was like, I agree. And then Mark's blue clip.
Yeah, literally that, right? It's just me, like, trying to keep a mental log of the things that Mark has said that I wanted to have a reaction to, so that then I can get to the end of his, like, monologuing and be like, okay, so to respond to this point, and this point, and this point, and that point.
Yeah, if you ever notice Mark like very quiet, usually it means Jess has provided feedback in a previous episode. And then by the next episode, I'm right back.
I do remember there was one period where we're just like, should I, like, raise my hand, like, specifically, should I raise my hand if I have, like, a point to add to something? I don't do it, because I just feel weird and awkward about it. I'm like, I'll just let Mark talk. He's enjoying himself.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. But yeah, so that usually also helps us keep it nice and short ish.
Yeah, and definitely like the pre-planning of our talking points and such. I feel like most recently we've been a little bit slack about it. Not for this episode though, because we had to get your questions first. So we did a good job on that one. At least I think we did. But pre-planning kind of discussion points or general themes about what we're talking about, we don't go and script anything out, because first of all, I'm not very good at reading. I'm doubly not good at reading in front of a camera. Hell no. So it's more so just a general, I don't know, sequence of things we would like to talk about, and then they will take as long as they take type of a thing. We aim for an hour, but oftentimes the footage ends up being a lot longer. Currently, we're sitting at 1 hour, 8 minutes, but you are not 1 hour and 8 minutes into this video, so hopefully that kind of gives you an idea.
Yeah, we like to edit down, but we've got a few more questions to go, and these are actually really good ones. I'm excited. So as we continue to look at like what's next, the next questions, are there plans to add any other pals to the lineup or special guests?
I would definitely like to. I know that when we talked about our plans for the podcast this year, we were kind of thinking about bringing people on and having more people to talk to, planner pals from the community, and getting their insights around topics. And it would still be something that we'd be curious to do. It's just the time organization and figuring out when all of us could actually meet up to do that thing. The logistics are tricky, but I'd be keen.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. It's like I would be open to it, very much so. Like I think it would be fantastic to have like different people on, but like in my brain, to think to try to schedule something, like I can't even schedule or figure out time between Jess and I, and we do this, at least once a week. To think about having to schedule myself and like US East Coast, Jess New Zealand time, and then like somebody else in a different time zone, I don't know how we would make it happen. Like I feel like one of us would be like just waking up or going to bed and maybe somewhere in the middle. We want to do it. I mean, we have literally an entire list of people that we want to. We actually had one person that we like almost had going, and then we totally sorry ghosted them because we were like, we can't like connect on this. But I feel like now we're definitely in a better spot from a planning perspective, timing perspective, and all those things. So I think it would be super fun to be able to do.
Yeah, and I think that even though logistically it is tricky, I think there's also an aspect of like not knowing what you don't know. We haven't tried to do it before, so there is kind of like not necessarily like a fear of stuffing up or anything, but maybe a little bit of that in that we have obviously got like a dynamic between the two of us. How does that then work when you add somebody else into the mix? Because if we're adding somebody else into an episode, we want to make sure that they have their time to say things, to shine. Like that's the purpose of inviting them on, is to get their insights. So how do you then make it that they get their time to shine? Mark has his time to monologue. I have my occasional, yeah, that sounds good. I'm kidding. I'm just being a bit of a dick. But, being able to kind of navigate that as well. Because a lot of the time when it comes to preparing our episodes, yes, we have our topics decided in advance, but the actual talking points, oftentimes it's like the day before, or sometimes even like a half hour before, and we're in the document typing things up. You can't really do that when you've got somebody else who is a guest on your podcast. So there is a little bit more planning that goes into being able to have an episode with them that actually feels like a good time for them, a good time for us, and a good time for our planner pals as listeners.
Yeah, and we've had 2 years of doing this too now. I think when we first started, it was very much like, do I raise my hand? Like, when do I answer a question? And now I feel like, at least for me, maybe you have the same thing, but like I can tell when Jess is like coming down off of a thought. And sometimes also, like, again, thank goodness for our editor, like neither of us will say anything. And it's just like, okay, do you want to do that next? Like we're both just kind of like, are we ready to move on? We're not sure. Like we don't have hand cues or like a soundboard or a light or anything that kind of help us do that. So I think that would be interesting too. I feel like it would be much more of like an interview style. It would be like if we were like morning show TV host interviewing a guest, like I feel like that's how it would kind of be. But the only way to know would be to try it and see what happens. So hopefully that'll happen in the new year. Jess, let's get into the last question, which is all about the podcast on the back end. And what are your plans for season 3 of the podcast? That's crazy. That's going to be 3 seasons of this podcast.
Wait, we're doing a season 3? I thought this was the final episode. No.
My contract has not come through yet.
Yeah, I haven't been paid for the last 2. No, I'm kidding. But I think that in terms of plans for season 3, obviously just like continuing with awesome conversations and such. We literally just talked about it. I would love to have people on. I think we just need to get over the fear of like either the work that is required to get people onto the podcast, or like, the scheduling kind of timing conflicts of it all, or whatever. I think it would be a really good time. But I also think that it would be fun to explore areas of the planning kind of sphere conversation and such that we haven't really touched on yet, because there are definitely some. I know, for instance, the very first episode of season 3 is going to be about overconsumption, your favorite topic, because I have thoughts, you definitely have thoughts, and so that's going to be fun to get into and chat about. But there are other things that we just haven't really touched on yet, and also some older topics that I feel like we have kind of gotten an updated perspective on, and it would be pretty nice to revisit those and maybe dabble a little bit more in that area. I know that you're just like gunning for another fountain pen episode. Go on, what do you want for season 3?
No, so I actually had the same things. I thought about some older episodes because I feel like you and I have had an epiphany, a thought, a direction, feelings on like bullet journaling as a whole this year. There's definitely something that went down that you and I have very similar thoughts on, with like that general space and kind of how we're approaching it moving forward. I would love to have another one of those, because one of our first episodes ever was like why we love bullet journaling. And now I would say, why do we like DIY planning, or you may be using other words for it. So coming back to topics like that would be good. I don't want to get into like drama necessarily, even though I literally just like teased up drama there, right? But like I think a little bit of that is good conversation though, because I mean, we are two people in this community who are a part of it. We're not just spectators and we don't just like comment on it, right? We are a part of it. And so I think like getting more of those hot takes and like talking through that, I mean, we do for the most part, but I think it would be interesting to have like a really juicy topic that like might get us in trouble, you know, like just for the fun of it, to see like what happens with it, not to try to incite and making anybody upset or anything like that, but like having a really deep conversation about that. And I think some of our older topics would be great. Definitely some that have been like more popular than others, like coming back into those and seeing. And I would say just episodes like this, getting questions from the community and like them asking us questions and us being able to answer them, because like that's the best part. I feel like that's the best thing as a consumer. If you're like, hey, I have questions, but I don't know how to ever get answers to them directly, like we're giving them to you.
Yeah, and I know that we didn't necessarily get to all of the questions because we got a decent crop of questions, and I so super appreciate you guys being responsive to it, being responsive to our podcast, obviously, coming back time and time again, watching, interacting, and all of those type of things. And because we do make it for us, but we also really we make it for you, right? So when it comes to season 3 of the Planner Pals podcast, what is it that you want to see? What topics would you like us to dive into? What do you want to hear our feedback, insights, thoughts about? Let us know in the comments, or you can hit us up at plannerpalspodcast@gmail.com or over on Instagram at plannerpalspodcast. We're really eager to hear what you would like to see in season 3, though. But as always, Planner Pals, thanks for watching.